What if I was to tell you one of golf's biggest icons' bad habits actually led him to be one of the best golfers of all time? Sadly, the same can't be said for your bad habits, which lead into boiling frustration and the eventual thought of let's just give up the game. Because believe it or not, when this game was invented in 1552, it was actually created to be an enjoyable pastime. And even though a lot of you love nothing more than walking around a peaceful landscape, shouting expletives and threatening to bin your clubs after 9 holes, here's a lot of bad habits that I eradicated and a few bad habits that I adopted that helped me change the idea of giving up the game and put the enjoyment back in it, as well as obviously the improvement of my scores. The first big reason we think about quitting golf is it's a waste of time. And some of you are under the illusion that this game is somewhat fair. Golf is very similar to life. No matter what you do, the time, effort, work, money you put into it, sometimes it's just out of your control. Therefore, having an expectation of 1 round of golf or even a few rounds of golf over the course of the month is a true reflection of your progression just isn't accurate. So we're going to change this bad habit. We're going to break down our round of golf. Yes, some of it's going to be down to luck, but let's build a bigger picture. Where are you losing shots? And ultimately, the part that you might have been working on has improved, just the score itself hasn't reflected it. The whole point of this is you have 4 of the worst rounds of golf you've had in a long time. But writing down a few stats through those rounds of golf, you can actually see some progression on the parts of the game you're working on, which at least restores a tiny bit of faith and gives you a glimmer of that progression that you so desire. From a waste of time to too much time. And I agree, I know all too well it takes a lot of time to get good at this game. But in part, that is the beauty of it. However, a lot of you aren't even helping yourselves because the time that you do somewhat allocate to this game, well, quite bluntly, is a waste of time. We get to the range, we pick up our wedge, we hit 20 shots, then pick up your 7-iron, hit 30 shots, then get out the driver, hit another 20 shots, and then essentially just call it a day. But here's where you can use information from bad habit number 1. What is the weakest putt of your game? Did you have 38 putts? Did you not get a single up and down? Did you only hit 2 out of 14 approach shots into the green? Or in fact, did you only hit 1 fairway throughout the day? And if your practice time is limited to the driving range, make it as close to a golf course scenario as you can. Change targets, change clubs, put yourself under pressure, and again, start writing your results down. Wasting time, too much time, and now just outright buying a shortcut. And even though the channel revolves around second-hand clubs, I'm all for buying new clubs, especially if they're fitted extremely well for your golf game. The only downside of buying a new club, in my eyes, is that you're also buying expectation. Expectation that you will hit only good shots. Expectation that the bad shot won't happen anymore. And then that expectation evolves into frustration, which then leads into you wanting to give up the game. And I do feel buying new clubs is a rite of passage. You will do it if you play this game long enough. But the more you play, the more you start to understand what clubs actually work for you and not just revolve purely around numbers. Hence why I'm now in love with these old ping eye wedges. Meaning frustration is bad habit number 4, and for a lot of you, it's a big weakness, just like it was for myself. So let me tell you how you can make it a strength. You're gonna get frustrated with this game. There's just no question about it. There's so many things out of your control. Bad lie, bad bounce, slow play. Your brand new clubs aren't working for you, but you've got to manage that frustration, as all it means is that you just care, but just a bit too much. One of the best tips I ever got given, taking 10 steps to vent. Think what you want, say what you want, do what you want. But after that 10th step, forget about it. You can't think about golf for 4.5 hours. You're going to be mentally exhausted by the end of the round. Think about something else, train your brain to switch off, and start practicing to let the things on the golf course that are completely out of your control completely go. Otherwise, you're just hindering yourself. And before we get into the bad habit that you can definitely take from John Daly, lessons I think can ultimately be one of the biggest reasons a lot of golfers give up. They spend a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of effort, and then don't see the results. And I think this is down to 2 reasons. Number 1, no coach is perfect for everyone. I'm the first to admit I'm not the world's best golf coach, and my methods definitely aren't going to be perfect for 100% of the population of golfers. But reason number 2 is patience and time. There's a big reason why I never have another session with a client until they've practiced at least 3 times, as we'll either be working on the same thing or moving on to the next thing before the other bits have really sewn into their golf game, which leads into multiple swing thoughts, which leads into indecisiveness, and ultimately leads into very destructive bad shots. Now, there are two big lessons that you should take away from John Daly's bad habits. Understandably, the drinking in excess for John did lead him to not perform at his highest level through parts of his career, but in this interview, he does mention
when I had a good buzz going, I could play really good golf, and I think it's just because the body's so loose and like free.
Now, most of us won't be drinking before the round, but for the most part, we can definitely relate on how not caring as much about the score and results have played a big part in you playing some of your best golf. For example, after hitting a shot out of bounds, how many times have you just stood up to the ball and just hit it straight down the middle with little care of where it goes? Or have you taken the break from the game and the first round out with little to no expectations, shoot a very reasonable score? Too many swing thoughts and too much focus on playing perfect golf 100% of the time is just detrimental to our game. The second bad habit we can adopt is John's superhuman length. With him holding the title longest driver on tour more than any other professional golfer, and in this interview where he was quoted,
"I just hit it as hard as I can, and if I can find it, I hit it again."
This can be extremely useful to a lot of us, and I'm not expecting you to hit the ball 320 yards, but when you swing as hard as you can at that golf ball, you go from conscious to subconscious. All swing thoughts go completely out the window, and you just have pure faith that the ball will somehow get in the way of that club. And miraculously, when I've done this with clients in the past, all of a sudden they start finding the middle more rather than less. So if you're that golfer that's been playing for a while and used to strike the ball really well and now rarely find the middle, trust your body and your swing and just hit the ball a bit harder, as slowing down obviously isn't helping. Now, we briefly touched upon buying, and if you're struggling to find the right club for you, especially for your budget, well, there's a secret robot up here on the right hand side which might be able to help you with that.